Hello, 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 hello. Good evening. Um, I want to start by saying rest in peace, Pee Wee Herman. I didn't realize until about an hour ago that he had died. I didn't look at my notifications, but I did receive something, and I am going to address this on Thursday. But uh, I'm getting all of these video clips. Hold on, Terry Lynn and Heidi. She says she's got links and more being said. First of all, forever, don't tell me any more information because I don't care. So I got that clip, and according to her, she had a backstage talk with me and Terry Lynn, and she told us some personal information. I remember what we discussed that day. We discussed Glenwood's daughter. We discussed Amanda. We discussed Kat. So the personal information she's talking about, if it has to do with Glenwood's daughter, honey, you've been put that out there. So let's not play. But I will be discussing this on Thursday morning. I am off, and before I leave on my trip, I will be addressing these video clips. Okay. Hello, 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 hello. How is everybody doing today? We're good. We all heard what happened today with Vallow Daybell. She's got life on top of life on top of life, and then 10 years for the grand theft. And, well, we already know she ain't getting out. But what I wanted to do was I want to play the victim impact statements, and I want to get, in case you guys didn't hear them, I want to get your reactions to those. And I want you to pay attention to this bitch, to this woman sitting at the table with not a care in the world. But before I do that, let me say hello. Hi, Susan. Hi, Snuggle Bunny. Hi, Dung Beetle. Hi, Michelle LaBelle. Hi, Breezy Girl. Hi, Knitting with Amanda. And that's all we have right now. Anybody else coming, guys? Make them feel welcome. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to be discussing Thursday morning. It's a lot of shit that's been going on since yesterday. Okay, let's get to here. Let me turn my camera off, and we're going to get there. Hi, Mike Wall. How are you? How are you doing? Nice to see you. Okay, I'm still getting messages. All right, so let me share my screen with you guys. I'm going to take myself off. I want you, not off. I'm just going to make this huge. I'm making it huge. Okay, let me camera down and full screen. I want you to pay attention to Vallow Daybell. I want you to actually hear the victim impact statement, which is one lady couldn't get, I think it was the aunt or the grandmother, I can't remember. I listened to this today while I was at work, and I was damn near in tears, to be honest. But here we go. Let's listen. Ooh.
Just so council knows. So, Mr. Wood, if you'd like to either read a comment or have your first victim speak, you can do that now.
Thank you. Before I do that, Your Honor, I
This
did
is
neglect to
Lori
say
right
that
here.
Samantha William will also be reading into the record the statement of her father, which was included in the PSI if the court permits.
All right, the court will so permit that on your request.
And with that, then we would ask that Samantha be allowed to make her statement now.
Very well. Ms. William, then if you'd like to come forward and you can provide your statement at that lectern right in front of you. Please state your name for the record as you begin.
My name is Samantha Gwilliam. Do you want me to do my father's after mine or do it before mine?
It's up to you.
I'm going to read his first. This is what my father wrote. His name is Ronald Douglas. He is writing on behalf of myself and my now deceased wife. I would like to share thoughts about the impact of the actions of Lori Vallow on our family. Tammy's death was unexpected and had a profound impact on all of us. We were barely into our recovery process when we learned of Chad's new marriage exactly 2 weeks after losing Tammy. We had no knowledge of missing children until we were visited by law enforcement officers and informed of Tammy's disinterment and autopsy. The drama began to unfold and the reason for the quick burial became apparent. Over the course of the following months, the ensuing revelations of deceit and intrigue caused extreme emotional stress on my wife, Phyllis. We became estranged from the Daybell children and began losing the close relationships we had with them. I'm sure they feel awkward about their father's actions and how Tammy's death was affecting us. We value them as grandchildren and want to keep them close to us. While Phyllis was already battling her leukemia of over 30 years, the emotional stress of this drama seemed to accelerate her declining health. Her remaining months of life were full of strain and heartache. Lori entered Chad's life long before we were aware of any interaction between them. In retrospect, we see that Chad was living a double life and the bonds of his family were being eroded due to his involvement with Lori. The eternal ramifications of her actions are yet to be calculated. Lori needs to pay for her actions according to the laws of mortals. She will still answer according to the laws of God when she passes from this life. Ron Douglas. This is my statement. Over the last few years, I've often thought about what I would ever say to you, Lori. I've often thought about what my sister would have said too. The minute I found out that Chad had quickly remarried after the death of my most beloved sister, Tammy, it confirmed what I had always felt. You see, the minute I received the phone call that she had died, I knew something had happened to her, but I didn't know why I would feel that way. So when we were told by Chad that he had married you and that it had happened 2 weeks after Tammy had been buried, my heart knew.
This is sad.
I researched you like any true woman would to find out who you were. What did I find? Lies. Everything about you that you tried to tell others is a lie.
At this point, I'm going to object. I don't believe this falls within the statute or within the Idaho Constitution or within Idaho versus Payne.
All right, Mr. Thomas, your objection's noted. It's
I thought she
overruled.
fell
The
asleep
court
at
will
one
be able to
point.
consider and ferret out these statements and properly consider what's in the record. You can continue,
Thank
Ms.
you.
William.
We asked, what's her name? Lori Ryan. Well, that was a lie. That was 2 husbands ago. So as I searched, what happened to your previous husband? She told us that he had died from a heart attack. Lie. He died from being shot. I asked, are there children? I was told we will be empty nesters. That's a lie. The police ask us about missing children. You answer, the children aren't missing. They're safe and happy. It's a lie. Your children, your poor children were dead and buried on Chad's property, and my sister was told was sick and her health was failing. Well, that was a lie. I had seen her with my own eyes 2 weeks prior. She was very healthy. We have to go through her being disinterred and having an autopsy done. Was glad to get some answers and some truth after so many lies. But to find out what we knew in our hearts all along, she had been murdered by those who saw her as an obstacle to a plan. You planned her murder just as much as you planned the murders of your own children and your previous husband. Why? Why plan something so heinous? You had an affair with a married man. You lied to yourself by what is okay to sneak behind the backs of your spouses. You are not exalted beings, and your behavior makes you ineligible to be one. But why pick Chad? He was an average guy, and you had married several men before him. He made you feel special and singled out. You tell yourself that you are high spiritual beings who have lived lives together through time. You felt powerful. This is too is a lie. But Chad has no real wealth. How will you live? You can easily have divorced your spouses and made your own perverted life together, but you need money. So you tell this story about people being dark and that they are zombies.
Money.
This is how you justify who needs to be removed. You use this lie to justify the murders of 4 people whose deaths you profit from. But you could sit there and think, you've never met me and I don't know you. But I've always been able to tell when I am being lied to, and you are a liar, an adulteress, and a murderer. Because of the choices you made, my family lost a beloved mother, sister, aunt, and daughter. She is irreplaceable. She was 1,000 times the woman you will ever dream of being. Because of the choices you made, we have been hounded by media and those who revel in all of the salacious scandal you have stirred up. Because of you and your desire to get what you want at any cost, my family has been ripped apart. I helped raise Tammy's children. And because of you, they no longer have their mother or grandmother. And because of fear of losing another parent, they listen to the lies spewed by you and Chad. Our relationship is strained and most contact with them is gone. Your trial was the last thing my ailing mother had to live through. She declined in health as she heard through news reports all of the horrible things that happened, and she had to relive all the things we have tried to forget the last 4 years. My mother passed away in June, knowing that you will never come out of prison again. Her passing was marred by the fact that Tammy's children chose not to participate in her funeral because of fear of causing more drama. We were deprived.
I'm sorry. I had to stop that part. Oh my God. I did not know they didn't participate in her funeral. Oh shit. Wait a minute. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have did that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. There we
The
go.
last.
What is going on? Hold on. I want to go here.
You want at any cost.
There we go.
My family has been ripped apart. I helped raise Tammy's children. And because of you, they no longer have their mother or grandmother. And because of fear of losing another parent, they listen to the lies spewed by you and Chad. Our relationship is strained and most contact with them is gone. Your trial was the last thing my ailing mother had to live through. She declined in health as she heard through news reports all of the horrible things that happened, and she had to relive all the things we have tried to forget the last 4 years. My mother passed away in June, knowing that you will never come out of prison again. Her passing was marred by the fact that Tammy's children chose not to participate in her funeral because of fear of causing more drama. We were deprived of the chance to heal and have them realize how much we love them. We don't blame them for what happened, but we blame you and Chad for all the lies you've told and ripping apart this family. We didn't do anything. My parents are not evil. They did not deserve to lose their grandchildren on top of losing their daughter. I did not deserve to lose the relationships of children I helped raise, or a sister that was my dearest friend. I am not a dark person or a zombie, and for me and my family to be portrayed that way is unacceptable. Lucky for me, the world can see the truth as much as I can. Everyone now knows what liars you are. They now all know what horrible things you have done. You will have to live in your prison cell for the rest of your life. You are not an exalted being, and there's no huge event that is going to save you. No jail walls are going to fall so you can leave. No angels are coming to rescue you. You made judgments of others and determined if they should die based on the fact that they might do bad things and we need to kill them before they do. That is not how the atonement works. We cannot punish and judge others on things they haven't happened yet, but you did. You have also made choices that have led you here. You have been judged by the court and you have been found guilty. Your consequences are before you. I miss my sister every day. I will grieve her and know the loss of my mother for the rest of my life. I will always remember them. As for you, I choose to forget you. And as I leave this courtroom today, I choose to never think of you again. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go listen to the other victim impact statement. And I want to, I think it's 55 minutes. Yeah, this is the one that I really want you to hear. This one by Kay. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna make this bigger.
80 days ago, on May 12th, 2023, the word guilty was read for each of the charges inmate Daybell is being sentenced for today. Guilty, the word cemented what I had known for 1,401 days, was returned by the jury.
Pay attention to her
The
with the
jury
days.
devoted their time, energy, and dedication to deliver justice for JJ Tiley and Tammy for every single heinous crime charged. Our family is eternally grateful for their sacrifice. Justice would not have been possible without the time, perseverance, and tireless work every member of multiple law enforcement agencies, prosecution team, court personnel, and the court. Our appreciation and thanks can never be expressed in a way that will adequately or effectively convey our gratitude. Today marks 1,481 days that have been filled with terror. One was the day my brother Charles was murdered. It took over 30 hours for the defendant to finally send a cold-hearted text to Charles's sons, informing them that their father was dead. No phone call, no explanation as to how, when, and where. Colin Zach immediately called me, hoping this was a cruel joke.
Your Honor, I'm going to object as this has nothing to do with this case.
It's overruled, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Overruled.
Ms. Woodcock.
This was the beginning of her cruel campaign of terror, a campaign that resulted in the deaths of JJ and Tylee, two innocent children, and Tammy, a devoted mother, grandmother, and wife. Our intense fear for JJ's safety began the very moment we learned of Charles's death. We knew Lori didn't want JJ anymore, as we had seen her abandon him for 72 days with little to no concern of his well-being. We now understand that this was so she could carry on her illicit and torrid affair with Chad Daybell and to conspire with him to murder and profit from my brother's death. With the number of divorces in Larry's past, it took me a while to understand why my brother had to die. I now realize what a nothing Chad Daybell is, a man with no ability to support anyone, no success of his own, a user of the weak-minded, a lazy, good-for-nothing, spineless man that rode his wife's coattails of success. After learning of Charles's death, I immediately began reaching out to Lori. I began calling, leaving voicemails, and texting. Finally, after 3 long hours, I received a brief text with 0 details. She couldn't be bothered or felt too guilty to pick up a phone and call, this time his sister, and explain what happened. It set out so many alarms for Larry and I. Within minutes, we were on the phone with an Arizona detective learning the horrifying truths of my brother's murder. This all began with greed, the greed for and desire for a $1 million life insurance policy. She should have answered my calls. She should have spoken to me. I would have given her the money. She could have let JJ and Tylee live and had $1 million. She could have been free to be Chad's mistress and foot the bill with the money from spilled blood. JJ and Tylee could have been with us living happy lives. Instead, she took all that away, all because she is a money-hungry, power-mongering monster. We flew to Arizona the next morning and were finally able to meet with the detective shortly after. We learned the frightful details of my brother being ambushed by Lori and Alex. I know my brother, and what we were hearing made no sense to the kind, gentle, and generous and loving man we knew him to be. After hearing the details, our immediate concern was JJ's safety. We had no legal rights to JJ. This simply left our hands tied. We were powerless then and have felt overwhelmingly powerless since. It is the most unwanted and terrible feeling to be in that position. I pray no one ever must deal with this type of circumstance. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I would say not even Lori or Chad, but their evil and malicious plans are why we are here. She has shown no grief for the lives she willingly took or the pain she caused. Today, I take the power back by standing here speaking out loud of all the pain and loss she caused. I pray that my words will assist you. My sincerest hope is that they will be seriously contemplated in imposing a sentence for her cruel and heinous crimes. During the trial, a lot of information was shared about JJ's death. Today, I want to share how he lived. That is truly the only way to understand and know who he was and the gaping hole his death has left in our hearts and in this world. Cain Todd Trahan came into this world fighting on May 25th, 2012, 10 weeks premature and weighing in at a tiny but mighty 2 pounds and 14 ounces. He was transferred to a hospital with neonatal intensive care unit within minutes of being born, where he spent weeks fighting to grow and live. I remember seeing him for the first time. My son Todd, his biological father, and I had followed the ambulance to the hospital. He was about 2 hours old when we were finally able to see him. He was so tiny and looked so fragile. In fact, I still have one of his tiny preemie diapers. It fits in the palm of my hand. As soon as I laid my eyes on him, I knew he was my grandson. He was the tiniest version of my son Todd, who was also seeing him for the first time. Todd struck with the love for him that can't be explained. The love that hits new parents can't be put into words. I remember him later saying, "How can I love someone I've never met this much?" It is a feeling I and millions of others have experienced at the birth of a child. Lori, Todd forgives you. I wanted to make sure you know that. While he was in the NICU,
Acknowledging
I was
her.
only able to see him for a few minutes at a time until I was notified he could be released to Larry and I in a few days. When we were initially asked if Kanan could come home with us, Larry and I didn't hesitate and immediately said yes, even though it had been 25 years since I had a new baby at home and never a preemie with their many medical needs. The only place we wanted him to be at home with us was at home with us. The night before he was discharged, I stayed in a little room next to the NICU, talking to the nurses and learning all the little things that our little preemie grandbaby would need. The next day, when it was time to leave, the nurse brought a wheelchair in and said, "Have a seat, and I'll get you out of here." I looked at her and kind of perplexed. "I don't need a wheelchair, I can walk." She gave me a smile and a little chuckle and then let me know it's hospital policy for discharged babies. So I sat in the wheelchair, took Kanan in my arms, and was wheeled out of the hospital just like a new mama. I felt so much pride for this little baby who had not only overcome being born 10 weeks early, but also being born with illicit substances in his tiny little body. He was healthy and ready to come home well before he was expected, and my pride in him knew no bounds. We knew then that he was a champion and oh so very special. That day began an amazing experience of raising our cherished little man. His first night home, as I bathed him, he cried so hard, and I cried right along with him. My heart was so heavy with all that he had been through in just the few short weeks since his birth. After his bath and still crying, my husband Larry, who JJ called Pawpaw, asked me to hand Kanan to him. He placed our baby Kanan on his bare chest and wrapped his robe around him, gently breathing on his head, rhythmically patted his back. Larry kept patting him, breathing warmth onto the top of his head until he finally relaxed, stopped crying, and fell asleep. This became a daily occurrence, part of our routine. He would hold him for hours so that Canaan would feel loved, comforted, and secure. I saw my husband in a new light. Larry jumped in feet first at 65 years old and did all the things a young and new father should and more. It made our relationship grow and gave us a new strength. Canaan was our strength and we were his comfort. His first 6 months were spent going to countless appointments. We went to appointments with doctors, heart, kidney, and urology problems, then to appointments for speech and occupational therapy, as well as visits to other pediatricians for a host of medical problems. We were always going from one appointment to another, constantly working to help him thrive and grow. That, along with loving him, was our number one priority. At each appointment, it became inevitable for me to cry. It deeply wounded me to see him go through so much, but I also felt immense pride in seeing him grow and how much love and happiness he gave to us and everyone that met him. My sister Susan had a special bond with Canaan and spent her days watching him so that I could work. She used to take him for walks, pushing his stroller endlessly. She could get him to belly laugh with silly animal noises, especially the froggy noise. There is no sweeter sound than a baby with an ecstatic belly laugh. Memories of the time spent watching Canaan grow, discovering his hands, toes, and feet, are all Susan has left of that special bond, and the immense grief of his loss is overwhelming. At 6 months old, the time came for the surgery he needed to repair a hernia. Charles and Lori flew to be with us at the Children's Hospital in New Orleans. This was a scary moment in time for us. Our tiny little man was undergoing surgery, and their support meant so much to us. After his surgery, Lori insisted I take the sofa as she slept overnight on the floor of the hospital room. Later, the decision was made to let Charles and Lori adopt Canaan. I knew she would always be 1,000% involved in his care, and I knew it would be okay since I witnessed that. She would always be there to help, support, and care for Canaan. That is part of why this is so hard. How does a woman that would go to that length for a baby boy a few short years later brutally take his life? It is mind-blowing, and I will never understand it. Charles and Lori were granted custody a short time later. It was then Canaan became JJ. It was happy and devastating at the same time. We loved every minute of raising him. We poured all our love, energy into ensuring he grew and thrived. We knew our unconditional love, and that time was priceless. Canaan's growth and milestones were clear evidence for our love for him. We knew the adoption was the best decision for his future, to have energetic parents, siblings, and access to the types of schools and services we didn't have in Lake Charles, Louisiana. With his departure, we felt a grief that really can only be compared to the grief of losing someone to death, which is now a feeling we all know too well. We had barely made it 30 days before we were standing on Charles's front steps to love on our baby. When the door opened, there he was in his little baby walker, and I swear I saw tears in his eyes at seeing us. He had missed us too. Before I could take a step, Larry swooped him up in his arms, and at 11 months old, JJ wrapped his tiny arms around Larry, laying his head on him. There it was, the connection. It was still so strong. We never lost that special connection with JJ. We were always his love, comfort, and safety. JJ's adoption was final in July of 2014, and Charles and Lauren moved with the kids to Hawaii, living in a house that backed up to a closed golf course, and it was perfect for JJ. It was like having the biggest backyard ever, and it was heaven for him. He would go outside, and he would run and run and run and run, and I ran and ran to chase him and catch up to him. Somehow, he never, ever ran out of energy. JJ also had no fear, and everything was an adventure. He climbed on everything, and he could do it in the blink of an eye. We have pictures sent from Charles of JJ sitting on top of refrigerators and cabinets with a grin on his face. Listening to testimony during the trial and hearing the defendant claim to others that he turned into a demon for doing what he had always done devastates me. How dare she take his energy and adventurous nature and turn it into a reason to further her murderous conspiracy? We would visit Hawaii every 4 to 5 months and stay 10, 14 days. We needed to soak up as much JJ time as we could. On one trip in the winter of 2015, JJ stayed home with me while Charles and Lori went to church. I was making a big pot of gumbo. I had to bring a little bit of Louisiana home cooking to Charles, and JJ was excited to help me. We pulled up a stool. He poured ingredient after ingredient. I can still see him standing next to me pouring chicken broth in the pot. Afterwards, he climbed on the counter and just watched, taking it all in. It is a memory that I will always cherish and dearly hold on to. During our visits with Charles or Lori, Charles or Lori would comment on how JJ would do things with us that were in stark contrast for them. He always awoke at the crack of dawn, never sleeping any later. However, when we would visit, we would have him sleep with us. JJ would ask Pawpaw to pat his back, just like when he was a baby, and fall asleep. He would sleep until 9 or 10, which astonished them. There was never a doubt he had an innate and unbroken attachment to us. Each visit, no matter where they lived, Lori always expressed her deep appreciation that we gave them the greatest gift ever in JJ. Lori loved to entertain and have family visit, ours and hers. She invited family and friends to Hawaii and friends from Hawaii to Arizona. 0 is the number that same mother murdered that same child she expressed her deep appreciation for. It is mind-boggling, and I don't think I will ever be able to understand it. Back to JJ, he was incredibly smart. He was reading at middle school level by the time he was 4. I remember being in a store with JJ and on the aisle with eye drops, and there he was reading off the labels: Visine, cysteine, antihistamine, one long word after another. I hadn't seen him do that before, so you can imagine my surprise and delight. As we stood there, he would occasionally stumble on a syllable or pronunciation, but we took the time to go through the words and helped him learn. As he got a little older, his special education school in Arizona told Charles he was a math savant. He could calculate anything. I continually wonder what he would have become, what type of man would he be? What did Lori deprive the world of? JJ loved school, loved his family, friends, and cousins, especially his cousin Braxy. The two of them had such a special bond and love for each other. There are so many lives he touched, from family, teachers, neighbors, and church members, that all feel the immense pain and loss of him being gone. Not only was JJ smart, but he was also funny, content, healthy, compassionate, and an empathetic child. JJ didn't show his empathy and compassion with hugs and kisses. In fact, you had to chase him down for those. But instead, with his gentle touch and speaking in soft tones, he would constantly stop to ask people if they were okay, if he could see or sense they were hurt. His world was fascinating and exciting with his huge imagination. He would put on concerts for his stuffed animals under our enormous oak tree, playing the drums on buckets and pots and pans. The joy he exuded and shared cannot be measured. I loved watching him, taking him in, and seeing how he approached the world. I never got enough of him. Now I've had all I will get for the rest of my life, and I will only have the precious memories to cling to. Now memories are how I feel the love I so desperately miss due to the heinous acts of his mother, the deplorable woman that chose to be his mother, the woman that 5 years earlier made the conscious decision to stand in front of a judge and swore to provide for, care, love, and protect him. When Charles and Lori married, When Charles and Lori married, Tylee was 3 years old. She was the most precious blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl. There was never any doubt that Tylee was an absolute mama's girl. When she was little, she adored Lori. I was thrilled to have a new niece, especially one as sweet as her. While Charles and Lori lived in Austin, we visited frequently. On one of our visits, we passed a roadside stand selling swings made from old tires. I saw one that had been made into a horse, complete with a saddle and stirrups. I grabbed Larry's arm and said, "Stop, we have to get that for Tylee." Her brother Kobe and stepbrothers Cole and Zach were always around her, and she needed something girly just for her, and she loved it. As a big sister, Tylee would put notes on her bedroom door, one of them being, "Do not enter." And as you can assume, even though JJ could read and understand the notes, it didn't mean he listened. After all, isn't that what little brothers do? He would storm into her room and she would laughingly tell him to get out. I think she did it on purpose, just to tease and play with him. It was hilarious to see them interact and warmed our hearts seeing them together. Tylee was 9 years old when JJ became her little brother. She loved him so incredibly much, and he loved her right back. She doted on him, and JJ loved every minute of attention he got from his big sister. The love they have for each other is captured in the last photo taken of them, both grinning and hugging each other. Hauntingly, this photo was taken shortly before and by the defendant hours before she murdered her own child, her sweet girl, Tylee.
This breaks my
I
heart.
have a niece that is a few months younger than JJ. Her name is Maddie. She and JJ loved each other and would spend days playing together when Charles and JJ would visit. On her 8th birthday in October of 2020, we were celebrating and singing happy birthday to her. The glow of the candles shining on her face, that huge grin that kids get during the singing, hit me like a truck. I grabbed the keys from Larry and ran to the car, and I just bawled and bawled until I could compose myself enough to rejoin the party. I knew then that JJ didn't get his 8th birthday song, and it broke me. $1,536. That is how many days it has been since I've seen JJ, and how many days since I was able to see that same candlelit glowing grin and from being sung happy birthday. You see, the last time I was able to hug and kiss JJ was in May of 2019 when we celebrated his 7th birthday. It is just so wrong. He didn't get to have that joy and feeling of love of another birthday because his mother is greedy and his life was expendable to her. We never know when one of those moments are going to hit, but I can tell you that there have been too many situations in the past few years where we get slammed with the fact that JJ won't hit another milestone in his life, all because his materialistic, self-centered mother cruelly and brutally stole his life and him from the world. Lori's acts of depravity, cruelty, and betrayal have no limits. She murdered and stole JJ's daddy from him on July 11th, 2019. Next, she was trying to sell Bailey, JJ's adored and cherished service dog, his shadow and his best friend. When caught, she was confronted and forced to give Bailey back to his original trainer. I can't imagine how that impacted JJ. Bailey went everywhere with him and provided him so much security and happiness. 52. That's how many days after Charles's death she waited, continuing her trail of destruction by taking JJ away from his home, his family, his school, his sense of well-being and normalcy by moving to Rexburg. JJ and Tylee were isolated and deprived of everything and everyone they knew and loved. 8. That's how many days later until another act of treachery with the murder and desecration of Tylee. The immense sorrow I feel in thinking of JJ's last days and week cannot be measured. How did he cope with the shockwave of change, confusion, and chaos? Being autistic and just a child in general, he thrived and excelled with his routines and schedules, and nothing was routine at that point. How much grief and fear did he experience? The loss of his dad, his world was upside down. During those 2 months, I continually asked, to the point of pleading with Lori to let us visit JJ. She only agreed once and then canceled. The trip was for JJ to attend Charles's memorial services back home in Louisiana. Our FaceTime calls, something that had been the norm, were cut shorter and shorter until our last call on August 10th of 2019 that lasted for 35 seconds. This all started with her greed. Her greed for a $1 million life insurance policy and her lust for Chad. 72 days, that is how many days it took Lori to take everything from JJ. He lost his dad, his home, his best friend Bailey, his beloved big sister, and his life, all in 72 days. My sister said it best. My sister Susan said it best. She killed him slowly by taking away everything that mattered. The following 9 months were pure hell. Nothing else can describe the feeling of not knowing where the children were. We were continually learning more about the evil that the defendant was involved with, and our fears continued to mount daily. 319. That's how many days from the last time we were able to FaceTime with JJ until the moment we learned the children had been found in Chad Daybell's backyard, buried like animals. When the call came, a sound escaped me that only can be described as guttural. Our worst fears were confirmed and we were destroyed. The grief my family and I have endured is immeasurable. Lori cruelly took my big brother Charles, my adorable grandson JJ, and my beautiful niece Tylee and sweet Tammy, whose family I've come to know and love. Lori is undeniably a monster that has not taken any responsibility or shown an ounce of remorse for her vile actions. She deserves to never again breathe oxygen as a free member of society. Her actions, dismissive behavior, and disinterest in court proceedings continue to validate her lack of accountability and remorse or any possibility to be rehabilitated. Lori Cox Daybell is a danger to society. Her body and manipulative mind are weapons used for her selfish greed and satisfaction. We firmly believe that she has zero mental
I'm sorry,
illness.
Your Honor, I'm going to have to object. I think the court ruled on this particular portion of her statement. I'm going to ask that the court enforce that.
Give me a moment. Let me review the
Very good, Your
section
Honor.
of the written PSI in the court's previous order. The objection's overruled. This is not the section the court struck from the statement, so you can continue. Ms. Woodcock.
We firmly believe that she has zero mental illness that drove her to commit these heinous acts. Rather, she is driven by her greed and need to be the center of attention. During the trial, a jail call was played between Lori and her son Colby as she continued her manipulation. Today, it feels especially poignant. Quoting Lori, "They have made all these judgments. They think they know what happened. They think they know who's responsible. They think they know everything, but you don't know because you weren't there. And one day you will know. One day you will know what actually happened." Those are her words. It is the one truth that Lori has told since the beginning of her campaign of terror. We do know what actually happened and who is responsible. Lori. Today is the day that she will finally be punished for her manipulation, cruelty, and criminal acts. She has shown no remorse for the murders, the lying, the deceit, or the pain. During the trial, we heard Lori deflect and minimize her sister's grief. We heard her exclaim that she was trying to go on with life, that she needed to be happy, all while she was dancing on the beach and her children were buried in Chad's backyard. Only someone with no remorse tries to justify the cold-blooded murder of her children with her needs. We wholeheartedly believe she was not only complicit, but was an active participant in both JJ and Tylee's murders, making her crimes even more reprehensible. Your Honor, my family and I pray for nothing. Okay. We trust your wisdom in determining the sentence for the fraud. Sorry about that too. Strike that. Okay. We believe there should never be a reason for her to be released from prison. She deprived JJ, Tylee, and Tammy of that right and should never be given what she so easily took from them. I'll leave with two final numbers. 3 for the 3 people who were murdered, who we will never forget. And finally, the number 1 for the defendant, the person that will never matter again once we walk out the door.
All right, Ms. Woodcock, thank you for the victim impact statement.
Okay, so I'm going to take that down for a minute so we can talk about some of these things. So what happened was, oh my God, the victim impact statement was, that last one was just a lot. So I just want to take us to the judge's ruling now, because he, if you notice, he was taking notes. He was taking notes on everything she was saying. I feel bad for I just feel bad for the whole family. It's sad. But Lori, so Charles adopted JJ, which is his grandmother's brother, because of her son. His dad, I think his name is Todd, he was addicted to drugs. The mom was addicted to drugs, and she died at 46 years old. 46 years old. And they said that it was from anguish and stress she endured after losing her son. I don't know, she could have overdosed, but she died. And it's just sad. But the grandmother, so when she was calling, when they hadn't talked to JJ, hadn't seen him, Lori kept saying that he was visiting a friend. And at the time, Tylee had, I think, just turned 16. But at the time, she kept saying that he was with a friend. So they kept asking for the phone number of the friend because they were that involved with their grandson's life. High crafting with D, and he was taking notes. So I'm going to play. I think Lori does speak, so I'm going to play that little bit. But she was sitting there like one point, I thought she had dozed off. And I've been following this case since it happened. So let's listen to what Lori has to say. So let me put this back up here. I'm going to make it bigger again. And then let's just hear it.
I would like to start by quoting John from the New Testament in the Bible. In John chapter 8, verse 7, Jesus says, "He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her." Then in verse 15, Jesus says, "Ye judge after the flesh. I judge no
Listen
man.
to this bitch.
And yet if I judge, my judgment is true."
What kind of judge is looking at her?
Jesus knows me, and Jesus understands me. I mourn with all of you who mourn my children and Tammy. Jesus Christ knows the truth of what happened here. Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal
Okay, I'm gonna stop for a minute. I'm gonna read you what the coroner stated after this. Okay, so there was no accidental death, you sick bitch.
Side effects from medications happen.
Yes, that's the murderer
I
talking.
have a different perspective in life because in 2002, when I was pregnant with Tylee, I died in the hospital while in labor with her. They tried to stop my labor. They put me on the table and they put something in my IV, and I felt my spirit falling to the floor. I was standing near my pregnant body, watching the doctors try to revive me, which took them a few minutes. In that time, my sister Stacy was standing to my left. I turned to hug her and was surprised that her spirit was as tangible as a physical body, because I knew I was in spirit and she was in spirit. She said she needed to show me some things, and we went to heaven. I later returned to my body. Because of this experience, I have access to heaven and the spirit world. Since then, I have had many communications from people now living in heaven, including my children, Tylee Ashlyn and Joshua Jackson, my sisters, Stacy and Lolly, my aunts and my uncles, and my grandparents. I have had many communications with Jesus Christ, the Savior of this world, and our heavenly parents. I've had many angelic visitors have come and communicated with me and even manifested themselves to me. Because of these communications, I know for a fact that my children are happy and busy in the spirit world. Because of my communications with my friend Tammy Daybell, I know that she is also very happy and extremely busy. I have always mourned the loss of my loved ones, and I have lost many in this mortal world. However, I know them more than most people. I know where they are now and what they're doing. I know how wonderful heaven is, and I'm homesick for it every single day. I know we all lived in heaven before we were born on earth, and we were all adult spirits in the heavenly realm. We chose to come to earth as mortals. Heaven is more wonderful than you can possibly imagine. I do not fear death, but I look
Can
forward
I
to
choke this bitch?
I did not want to return to my body when I was out of it. Even though my son Colby, who I adored more than anything, was only 6 years old at the time, and I was about to give birth to this new baby girl that I wanted so badly. I was a young mother, and you would think I wouldn't want to leave my children, but as I stood in heaven, I did not want to go back. I thought they would be fine without me because I was peaceful and I was happy and I was home. But then I was told by Jesus that I needed to go back and complete things that I had covenanted or promised to do before I was born. This caused me a lot of distress because I knew heaven was my real home, and I only wanted to be there. I was free from pain, emotional and physical. But then I was shown how I would help my children and others in the future. So ultimately, I did agree to go back to my body. Tylee has visited me. She is happy and very busy.
Oh my God.
Tylee
Oh my
is
God.
free now from all the pains of her life. Tylee suffered horrible physical pain her whole life. I sat with Tylee in the hospital year after year after year while she screamed in pain when the morphine wasn't even enough to take away the pain of her pancreatitis. I sat there while she cried and I held back her hair while she threw up. And I am the only person on this earth who knows how much Tylee suffered in her life. She had pain every single day. She never felt good. Her body did not work right. And I don't know if that was from complications from me dying while she was being born or something else, but she had a very difficult life. She was sexually abused by her own biological father.
Oh,
since
that's
she
a
was
lie.
3 years old.
That is a
And she
lie.
was forced by family court to go visit him for 10 years against her will. I fought for her in court. I protected her. I tried to protect her with my whole life. I tried to protect her. I worried about her every single day. Tylee had to get her GED because she couldn't go to school every day because she never felt good. She felt sick. Nobody knows this because Tylee, like myself, tries to put on a good front, tries to be a happy person, tries to have hope in life, tries to know that she's here for a purpose and that she has an eternal purpose to be on this earth. But I never stopped worrying about her. One of the times that Tylee came to me as a spirit after she died, she commanded me and she said to me, "Stop worrying, Mom. We are fine." She knows how I worry and how I miss her. The first time JJ visited me after he passed away, he put his arm around me and he said to me, "You didn't do anything wrong, Mom.
Oh my
I
God.
love you.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
know you loved me every minute of
I'm
my
gonna
life."
throw up.
JJ, Joshua Jackson, was an adult spirit. And he was very, very tall when he put his arm around me.
Oh my God.
He is busy. He is engaged. He has jobs that he does there, and he is happy where he is. His life was short, but JJ's life was meaningful.
She's lying, my
JJ
broke
was a
ass.
wonderful person and touched the lives of everyone, and I adored him every minute of his life. My eternal friend, Tammy Daybell, has visited me on several occasions. She came to bring me peace and comfort, and I know that she is extremely busy.
Okay. I was in a meeting when she did this. I did not hear this part. I got right to when the judge was sentencing. This bitch is crazy. Taylor didn't have any issues. She went to school until she decided she needed to be homeschooled. Her friends, she was always hanging out with her friends. They were texting her phone. She wasn't answering. They called that piece of shit, and she said she was visiting a friend. She was lying. She's lying. JJ is now an adult who has jobs there and he's engaged. And now she's saying that Tammy, Chad's deceased wife, who they conspired to murder, came to visit her. And girl, I can't. I'm glad I wasn't in that courtroom. Okay, let me finish letting y'all listen to this.
busy helping her family, especially her children and grandchildren. And I have a great love for Tammy. My beautiful children, Tylee Ashlyn and Joshua Jackson, rest safely this day in the arms of Jesus. My wonderful friend, Tammy Daybell, rests safely this day in the arms of
Her
Jesus.
friend.
And I look forward to the day when we are all reunited and I too will rest with them in the arms of my Jesus.
Okay. I can't. Oh my God. Her son Ryan was not even in court. He didn't want to even see. His statement was read by the prosecutor. This woman is completely off her fucking rocker. And you know what? People were asking, I was in the court TV chat and they were asking, I'm surprised that they didn't know the death penalty was removed because she refused, and you're going to hear the judge say she refused to take the psych evaluations. It was all of this stuff. So they took it. She's certifiable. Yes, take me to church. She is completely gone. And she keeps bringing up Jesus. You're so right. I I'm glad I was in a meeting because I think I heard that part when I was in my office, I probably would have went the fuck off one and they would have said Heidi has lost her damn mind. But so the autopsy of JJ, it was asphyxiation. They couldn't determine, but JJ had so many bruises on his body, and it was post-mortem, so it was before death. He had so many bruises on his body. When he was removed, his arms and his legs were duct taped. Okay? Duct tape. Tylee arrived at the morgue in 3 separate evidence bags. They couldn't determine. She was put in these little, oh my God. There was only for Tylee, I think she had, it was the skull, some of her organs, and her heart, kidneys, and lungs. That's it. They had to, and they still couldn't determine how she died. But JJ's wrists and ankles were duct tape. How is that accidental? His mouth was covered with duct tape. There was a plastic bag around his head, and that had duct tape. How was that accidental? How's that accidental? Hi, crazy cat mama sweetie. How is that accidental? This bitch has lost every bit of her mind. If you sit there and you tell me this is accidental, accidental. All right, let's see the judge's ruling. I just, I had to stop. I had to stop. I had to stop. And yes, Haley wanted to go to college. There was nothing sick about her. Her brothers never said she was sickly. Nothing. Where are the doctor's reports? Where is this? You heard how the grandmother said this little boy fought for his life, only for his life to be taken by this sick bitch, her brother. And Chad, hold on. Let me just get this back up here. I can't accidental. Please, bitch. Okay, let me play this. Here's the judge.
All right, the court will conclude then with my own review of the matter and then pronounce sentence. Ms. Vallow, based on the jury's verdict of guilty in this case, it is the judgment of this court that you're guilty of the following counts of the amended indictment. Count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception. Count 2, first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan. Count 3, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua
Yes,
Jackson
Breezy.
Vallow and
Yes.
grand theft by deception. Count 4, first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow. Count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell. And count 7, grand theft. I've carefully reviewed the record of this case, beginning with your prior criminal history. Very notably, you're 50 years old. These are the first criminal convictions you've ever had. I will note, however, in addition to these convictions, you have 2 additional conspiracy to commit first-degree murder cases pending in Arizona. And it's somewhat incredible in this case that seeing you've gone from no criminal history in your life to now having been convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and you continue to face more additional counts of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in another state. I've looked at the recommendations in the pre-sentence investigation report. It ultimately recommends a prison sentence stating, quote, incarceration under the custody of the Idaho Board of Correction. Normally, the court would have some additional information to rely on in fashioning its sentence, including the benefit of recommendations based on a gain evaluation, substance abuse report, mental health review, and other reports. However, you elected not to cooperate with the pre-sentence investigation. As I would note on page 23 of the pre-sentence investigation report, it states, quote, Lori Vallow Daybell intends to remain silent during the pre-sentence investigation process. She has the packet, but does not intend to answer any questions of evaluators or investigators. Quote, no attempts were made to complete the court-ordered screenings due to her refusal. I'm advising you that that was your choice to not cooperate in the pre-sentence investigation, but it left me without some additional information that potentially could have been mitigating in your case. And as I proceed with the sentencing, I'll note those deficiencies in the information I normally would have in a pre-sentence investigation report. As has been mentioned by both sides here, the court has to consider certain sentencing objectives when I sentence somebody, and these are set out in cases including State versus Hill, which is a Court of Appeals case 103 Idaho 565, and it's been adopted by our Supreme Court as well. And I have to consider four main objectives. Number one, the protection of society, which is the primary objective. Two, deterrence of the individual and public generally. Three, possibility of rehabilitation. And four, punishment or retribution for wrongdoing. That case states, moreover, it's clear as a matter of policy in Idaho, the primary consideration is the good order and protection of society. All other factors must be subservient to that end. I've also reviewed and considered the criteria set forth in an Idaho statute 1925-21 on the question of whether or not you should be confined to prison and to what extent. That statute sets out a variety of factors I have to consider in weighing whether a long prison term here would be appropriate. Some of the attorneys cited already to some of the provisions of that statute, and again, it talks about the primary consideration of the
Okay, I'm gonna
protection of
skip ahead to
society,
when he gives her the
and also
sentencing.
talks
I can't
about the
take over.
impact on the victim, the possible mitigation for that factor. And then finally, the character and attitudes of the defendant indicate the commission of another crime is unlikely, or the defendant demonstrates amenability to treatment. So those are the mitigating factors. Then in aggravation, we have more factors to consider. Is there an undue risk that during the period of a suspended sentence or probation, the defendant will change? At this point, I'll note that I will not be making comments on any other co-defendants in this case, and not sitting through the evidence as I did here. Having considered all of the evidence that I saw at trial along with the jurors, it's been a difficult task for me to narrow down and articulate their emotions in check and keeping stone-faced as they're supposed to do, and be objective until the case is done and submit beliefs for what happened here. I'm not here to judge that, but I don't believe that any God in any religion would want to have this happen, what happened here. And your crimes are heinous and egregious, and that alone can constitute a major aggravating factor that requires me to impose a serious length of incarceration. So after weighing all those factors, I need to in aggravation, I find that the sentences I'm about to impose will serve the interest of justice by, number one, preventing you from ever doing this again, that they will not depreciate the seriousness of your crimes, will punish you appropriately, and will serve to deter both you and others. So that concludes the aggravating factors the court considered. At this time then, I am prepared to pronounce sentence. Mr. Thomas, Mr. Archibald, and the defendant, would you please rise for the pronouncement of sentence? Based on all the relevant circumstances, including the evidence and recommendations
her
presented in
smiling?
court today, it's the judgment of this court. Ms. Vallow, you'll be sentenced as follows. I'll first note I'm going to take up the counts out of order as I want to address the substantive murder sentences first. So on count 2, the charge you were convicted of, the first degree murder of Tylee Ryan, you are sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence of fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. On count 4, the charge of the first degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow, you are sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate life imprisonment sentence with no possibility of parole. I'll next address the 3 conspiracy counts you've been convicted of. And note under Idaho Code 18-1701, the punishment for those crimes is the same as the underlying offenses you combined to commit. One of the offenses you combined to commit was first-degree murder, so those may be punishable also by imprisonment for life. When I look at what the appropriate sentences should be for the conspiracy charges, at first I wondered if they should be as long of a term or serious as the substantive murder charges. However, what I've concluded is that these conspiracy convictions merit the same grave punishment for several reasons. First, the conspiracies in which you engaged in have had far-reaching impacts on many people besides the deceased victims. And with what the court's heard, I am convinced that the conspiracy charges also merit the same serious sentence. So on count 1, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception, you're sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. On count 3, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception, you're sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. And on count 5, the conspiracy to commit the first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell, you're sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. Finally, the court will address count 7, which is the charge of grand theft. On that charge, court is going to sentence you to a fixed determinate term of 5 years of prison, followed by an indeterminate term of 5 years of prison for a total 10-year term of imprisonment on the grand theft. Court will next consider whether sentences should be imposed consecutively or concurrently. I generally don't, I'm a pragmatic person, and I've struggled with the point of a consecutive sentence when in Idaho, a life sentence is just that, a life sentence without parole. And I've thought it through. However, when I looked at this case and the more I thought about it, I've determined that because there are 3 separate murders with 3 separate victims that occurred at 3 separate times, then running counts concurrently would not serve the interests of justice, because those crimes all need to be taken into account separately and distinctly and individually. And you need to be held accountable separately for each of the 3 murders. So on those counts, the court will run consecutively the count 2 murder of Tylee Ryan, consecutive to count 4, the murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow, and count 5 will run consecutive to count 2 and 4, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell. So 3 consecutive life terms of prison. The remaining counts will be concurrent to the counts that are consecutive. The court will impose fines as requested by the state in the amount of $25,000 for all counts except the grand theft. On the grand theft, the fine will be in the amount of $1,000. The court will assess the civil penalty that was requested, and I find it's appropriate under Idaho Code 195307 of $5,000 per victim on each of the 3 victims as a civil penalty.
Okay, they're just reading off. But anyway, she's locked up. They won't let her out. Bitch is gone. When she dies, they're going to dig her up, bring her back to serve another term, dig her up again. She's got, yeah, she's gone. She's not coming out of that. Now, if you want to watch Kay Woodstock's victim impact statement. It is on it is on Court TV. They interviewed her after the trial. So she did speak, and then the indictment she's facing in Arizona, that's going to take place. So they're going to try her there too. She's going to be found guilty. I'm hoping, I typed in the chat, I hope she doesn't appeal this, because she's not going to get what she's looking for. So I just really want her to be, she doesn't show any type of anything. But I want you to see when she was walking out the court. Hold on, let me get that. I want you to see when she's walking out the court, how she doesn't even look at the family. She has no remorse, no nothing. So let me see, can I get that?
That'll conclude the court's sentencing on the charges. Mr. Thomas, do you have any questions on the sentence?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, Mr. Wood, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, counsel, before we conclude, and Ms. Vallow, importantly, I need to advise you of the rights you have now. You do have the right to appeal to the Idaho Supreme Court.
I just wanted you to see her walking out.
Vallow and count 5 will run.
Okay, we're not going to see it. I can't get it. It's not allowing me to do
Deemed
it.
as such by this court.
Okay, wait a minute. There it goes.
The court will assess that restitution on the grand theft charge of $22,540,
Damn it.
120 days to file that motion.
Okay.
If you believe a correction or reduction of this sentence is appropriate because it was either illegal or too harsh. And finally, you may also have rights to seek relief under the Idaho Uniform Post-Conviction Relief Act. Those actions have to be filed within 1 year from the day your right to appeal expires. Do you understand those appellate rights? All right, she acknowledged yes. The defendant will be required to submit DNA samples upon remand to the Idaho Department of Corrections. I'll ask the attorneys to please turn in any copies of the pre-sentence investigation reports or addenda, so those can be kept in confidence and additional copies will be destroyed. And Ms. Vallow Daybell, you are hereby remanded to the custody of the Sheriff of Fremont County to be delivered to the proper authorities of the Idaho Department of Corrections for execution of this sentence. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That'll conclude our sentencing hearing.
Now he comes back to the bench. He comes back. Wait a minute. Why is it spinning? He came back to the bench because of the fact was people were starting to move around and he wanted them to get her out of the courtroom. And it's just spinning. Why? Okay. So that's what happened with her. So let's see if she appeals. I hope not. I really do. It's spinning. I don't know why it's spinning, so I'm gonna take it down. But that's what happened today in court. 3 life sentences for Tammy, Haley, and JJ. She has grand theft, everything. She wanted the money. She wanted to live this life with Chad that he couldn't afford, and they wanted to do it on other people's backs. So when she realized when Charles was killed that he had changed his life insurance policy to his sister, which is JJ's paternal grandmother, she had a fit. So guys, I just want to say thank you for being here. This is a conclusion to those 3 cases where she had 7 charges really. She next goes to trial in Arizona. Chad's case is in 2024. I think it's January or February. I need to double check on that. But this is the case of the Doomsday mother, Doomsday killer. This is what they called her, the Doomsday killer. And Mike, I'm surprised you didn't hear about this case. It was amazing when I was in the court TV chat today that a lot of people didn't know the death penalty was taken off the table. And I really wanted her to get the death penalty, but they took that off the table. Her trial was postponed, like pre-trial was like 2 or 3 times, because they had her go in for a mental evaluation, they had her do this, but she refused to cooperate with them. So that's all I have. Wait a minute, am I frozen? I don't think I'm frozen. I might be frozen. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here, let you guys go back to the rest of your evening. But again, if you want to see the interview with Kay Woodstock, it is on Court TV. I don't know if I'm frozen. No, maybe not. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. You guys have a good evening. I appreciate everybody being here. I only meant to stay on for like an hour, but I wanted you to hear the victim impact statement. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.